Picture having to walk a full mile just to get to your bus stop as a 7-year-old. Once you get there, you have to wait for your bus to take you to your all-black elementary school. You are frustrated because there is an all-white elementary school just several blocks from your home, but of course you're not welcome there. This is the story of 3rd grader Linda Brown, an African American living in Topeka, Kansas. Her struggles, along with the struggles of many other young children like her, are what started and gave rise to the Brown v. Board of Education lawsuit in 1951. Linda's father, Oliver Brown, and 13 other parents had attempted to enroll their children in the local all-white schools in the summer of 1950, but were turned down because of the prejudice of the whites and told they must go to one of the 4 schools in the city that were specifically for African American children. These parents filed suit against the Topeka Board of Education. They were sick and tired of their children's rundown schools. Those all-black schools they attended operated on just 1/4 the amount of money given to the white schools. All in all, blacks everywhere were treated unfairly, simply because of the color of their skin. They did not have current textbooks or enough school supplies to suit everyone's needs, and were taught in overcrowded classrooms. Brown and the other parents decided to go to the NAACP for help. Linda's father was determined to fight to get Linda into school. The NAACP responded by hiring lawyers to fight for the rights of African American children all over the nation at the state level. They believed that segregation in schools was unconstitutional. Unfortunately, their case did not win. The state courts refused the case of Plessy v. Ferguson, which allowed separate but equal school systems for black and white children. They also stated that by treating the African American students unfairly at a young age, they would better accept being treated like that when they are older, which would certainly happen in the world they were living in. All the time of the case, blacks were segregated in all public facilities, such as restaurants, trains, buses, and drinking fountains. After losing the case in the state courts, the NAACP decided to take the case all the way to the United States Supreme Court. They appealed to the Supreme Court on October 1st, 1951, but Mr. Brown and the other parents' case was not the only one of its kind. There were 5 cases in total that challenged separate schools for black and white children. The 5 cases were from Kansas, Virginia, South Carolina, Delaware, and Washington, D.C., and were all joined together to be fought as one. The Supreme Court first heard from the lawyers on December 9, 1952, after taking 7 months to discuss whether they would even hear the case at all. The lawyers for the Board of Education argued that many people, including black scholars, did not see a problem with having black students attend all black schools. The lawyers for the Browns argued that the only reason for separate education for blacks and whites would be if there was proof that black children were different than everyone else. The arguments lasted for days, and the Supreme Court justices spent a great amount of time discussing the problem, examining it from historical, legal, political, and social perspectives. After 3 long years, the case finally ended May 17, 1954. The court sided with Linda Brown and the other African American children, deciding that segregated schooling was indeed unequal and therefore unconstitutional. The vote was unanimous. It was believed that segregated at a young age would create permanent psychological problems for the black children, such as feelings of inferiority. This dynamic decision ultimately reversed the 58-year ruling of the Plessy v. Ferguson. However, this ruling enraged many stubborn whites who did not want their children going to school with blacks. Many southern governments completely disregarded the new law, and many organizations were created to oppose integration. A full 10 years after the decision, only 25% of schools had been integrated. All in all, though,